Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm with Emenike, who is a incoming software engineer intern at NVIDIA, and we'll be covering the internship process, the recruiting process, and yeah. So let's get into it. Welcome.
Hi, so my name is Emenike Anigbogu. Emenike Anigbogu is like my full name. And University of Maryland student and incoming software engineer at NVIDIA.
Awesome. Yeah. So now let's get into the video roadmap. We'll be going through our introductions. What is NVIDIA? And we'll be covering the NVIDIA recruitment process, the OAs, the referral process, and just like the recruiting stages. After that, we'll be going more into what types of questions in terms of DSA are asked, as well as the system design and like the split between these two types of questions. And then after that, we'll be going to any final tips and resources. And then part three will be Bloomberg full-time recruiting, and part one, which was the previous video, is MongoDB. So let's get into it. Um, so yeah, just to introduce myself, hello, my name is Kai. I'm a senior at Wharton. I'm studying finance and computer science. Um, I recently started bouldering as a more serious hobby. I want to become a adventure photographer and just scale mountains and do all that stuff. So this picture on the left here is of me 2 days ago at a local climbing gym. And the photo on the right is me in Utah. And this was about 3 years ago with the camera, honing my photography skill. Um, yeah. And
That's you? I didn't know
oh,
you wear glasses.
that's me with the camera.
You wear glasses?
Yeah, I also wear glasses. Fun fact.
You just got to know that's important.
Yeah, fun fact, I wear glasses. Okay. And now I'll pass it off to you.
Yeah, so University of Maryland student, computer science, and yeah, I want to make a CS education YouTube videos. Do you want me to get into that now or like later? I
We can get
guess.
into that a little bit later, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, stay tuned for that. And then yeah, previous MongoDB intern and incoming NVIDIA. That's me and my friend. We were trying to recreate a picture. Young Thug and Dirk. That was pretty funny.
Mhm.
Fellow interns like that. But yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha. Awesome. And then now we'll be going to what is NVIDIA. So for all of you guys who live underneath the rock, NVIDIA makes it's essentially a tech company that's making, the GPUs, the AI computing hardware of this generation. They're also very much widely known for their gaming graphics cards, as well as their Blackwell cards, all that stuff. Insane tech. Um, and I like to, I like to look at this quote here at the bottom from their CEO Jensen Huang, who said, "Greatness is not intelligence. Greatness comes from character, and character isn't formed out of smart people. It's formed out of people who suffered." Um,
Yeah, that's part.
yeah, basically work hard, grind hard. What are your thoughts on this quote, or do you think this is very true or what?
Smart guy, great guy. I mean, yeah, it's definitely true. I feel like. I feel like that's what definitely creates imposter syndrome in most people because they suffered, they paid the price, and now they're in places that um, are like so elusive and like they're probably thinking that they're not smart enough, they're not this, they're not that, but really it requires people who pay the price to get into those kind of conversations, into those kind of crowds, and ultimately make a difference. So yeah. So that's why I feel like it's always a surprise to like certain people who are like, "Well, I'm not that smart, but I'm here. Maybe I don't deserve it." No, you deserve it. You paid the price. You suffered. You worked hard. Now you're there. So yeah,
Gotcha. And would you ever get a NVIDIA tattoo on your
I
shoulder?
would never get a tattoo, and I'll tell you why. Like for me, I view my body. I love my body. I think it's fantastic. And getting a tattoo, like why would I want to put something there that does not like originally belong there? You know what I mean? So I just would never get a tattoo unless like it just magically appeared in my own body, and as a result, like maybe that's a tattoo. I'll stick with that. But no, no tattoos for me.
Gotcha, gotcha. And yeah, so let's get into the NVIDIA recruitment process. What was like that stage for you like, and how did you prepare for your interviews?
Yeah, so. I think like I didn't have an OA actually. That's something I'm discovering. Like people did get OAs, which is interesting. But I guess yeah. So how I prepared was like I did every single NVIDIA tag LeetCode question, and I discovered this like oh my laptop's right there. But I discovered this based off of just a sheer number of problems I've done in the interviews that I've done as well. If a company doesn't have like more than like I guess like 200 LeetCode problems tagged in like the past 3 months, you're probably not going to LeetCode tagged question in your interview at all. It's kind of just charging my laptop. But yeah, it's kind of like interesting how it works because I did every single NVIDIA tag LeetCode question and I didn't get a single LeetCode tagged question in my two interviews because I interviewed for two roles and throughout the entire interview process, I didn't get a single LeetCode tagged question. It was just like a different question. So I guess like my previous studying from like Bloomberg and Capital One and those other ones as well, it really carried over into me just like cruising through these problems. Because at the very end, I would get a LeetCode interview and I would have like 15-ish minutes, 15 to 20 minutes to even do them. And like I was only able to like really crush those because of like just like the sheer quantity that I did prior. And the recruitment process, so I applied and then I forgot I applied. And then like I got an interview I got an email from so it's crazy because I got email for GeForce Now, which is like the gaming cloud gaming platform, and then I got like I was like, what? GeForce Now? Like, I applied? Like that's crazy. Like did they just reach out to me? But no, I applied. They sent me my application, everything. I applied. I was like, okay, wow. And then the next day I got, and I was already going through Bloomberg at the time as well. So I was like really stressed. I didn't really want to worry about it right away. But then the next day I got another request for an interview, and that was like for data center power. So I was like, okay, right. So I just scheduled. I was like, all right, you know what? Let me just pay the price. Let me lock in now. It's not gonna be that long. So I just basically scheduled those like right after I would anticipate like my last interview for Bloomberg would be. And so the interview essentially just told me that they passed my resume along, which I didn't know that's what they did. And they saw my skills were transferable to the teams that I applied for. And then from there, what they did was like the team said, yeah, let's give this guy an interview. And they gave an interview. Like that's how it works over at NVIDIA. It's not like a um like a machine that screens it. I mean, maybe there's a machine that screens out really bad ones, but they really passed the resume, which is like if I knew that, then like I would have I mean, but yeah, I'm glad they did that. But for the interview though, so the interview was like very job specific, which is I feel like how interviews should go. But they asked me Kubernetes related questions and Golang related questions. So if you just like studied for this, you probably wouldn't have done that well. But if you've used them on the regular, then you could definitely like you would do like I feel like you do really well because they would ask you scenario based questions. They ask you debugging related questions like how would you go about debugging it? Right? And so, like an example, if like a pod exploded or it crashed, Kubernetes pod, which is like an orchestration service to manage services. So if you have like some CRUD app or some server running on a pod and that explodes or that crashes, you kind of want to like, how do you debug that? How do you know what happened and how do you fix it? So like maybe you increase like resources or you horizontally or vertically scale the resources and you look at the crash logs, see like what happened. And if it's not there, then maybe it's like it exists on like maybe like the load balancer can like give you a better log of like what's going on. You can track the number of requests that come in using like some type of logging software. Things like if you've used those things before, if you know kind of what they are, if you kind of like talk about them in conversation and your experience with it to a degree, you would be able to do well, especially for an intern. So that's how like my two interviews kind of went. And at the end, I got like a LeetCode question. It was like reverse an array, and like it was like reverse an array, and like the follow up was use a stack. And so I asked if I could do it recursively. He was like, that was the follow up after that. So yeah, I guess. So I reversed it recursively, and then he was like, okay, now make a binary tree, generate a binary tree from it, and that was pretty light. And the other one for data center power, I do not remember. It has something to do with dominoes. I thought it was interesting, but um, it was fine ultimately.
Well, like
But
Domino's, like the DP question.
yeah, it was a DP. I had a DP approach to that question. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
they don't give you a lot of time. It's like, oh, and then there was one previously. It was like I had to like stream a bunch of numbers in, like reverse it and like reverse words, and it was not bad. It was like a medium, but I like did it in like 15 minutes because we didn't have a lot of time left. I had like a tracker like the amount of time he had. It was not a lot of time left, so. they expect you to really do easies and mediums, and they like, okay, let's do the LeetCode one. And then like it was just something to do. It's like you just need to get it done. It's like a handshake, you pass it, I'll move you on to the next round. It wasn't like that's kind of how it is, I guess. Like you can talk really well, you can engage with them, but you still have to like pass that LeetCode
Gotcha.
question at the end of the day, or else you're not gonna get it. But yeah,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
that's how
Cool.
it was.
Yeah, so I guess like it was just like very they test you on like what they wanted you to know like for the job, right? And like
Yeah, and
all
like
the
I
other like
understand.
leak yeah. And like all the other
Yeah.
leak stuff was just like a like just like make sure that you know it and then we just move on to the next stage.
It was like a two-factor like verification. That's what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's like you know what you do and you're also just competent overall. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Yeah.
Gotcha. Sounds good. And then I guess like speaking more on like the NVIDIA questions, and I guess you've touched that like there wasn't
Yeah.
much of a DSA questions, but I guess from what you know, is there a heavy reliance on DSA or is it more just your actual domain knowledge?
I mean, like, so I feel that I have like I feel like I can talk and like get information um the right way in an interview. So I never really honed that skill set, but I can qualify actually like I can describe the best way to I guess go about it. But I really knew that like DSA ultimately if you're good at it, like it will like shine, it'll like cast a shadow on like every other category that I guess would show that you're a capable uh interviewer. Like those other like secondary, tertiary, like metrics I will I guess like say, okay, this guy could solve it or whatever. I always like optimize for DSA and just I guess like be good at talking would be the like that's really what you need to get done. But if you do get stuck on a problem, the best thing to do is start like flexing your knowledge. Like you
Or
just start like
how do you do this? Like any one scenario.
yeah, so all right. Let me think. I'll give you this one was like for my Bloomberg. Actually, you know what? Oh yeah, so like you basically, I'll give you. This was like a Bloomberg tech question. So you have a street, right? And you have these houses, and then you have mailboxes in between these houses, right? Now the goal is like, what is the you can't put mail in one mailbox and put mail in the next mailbox,
Mhm.
right? And they're all like different distances of each other. So you have to like they have to like one mailbox apart. So like what is like the map well, how do you like like minimize the distance, I guess like between like I guess like I don't know each of the mailboxes um as you like put like I guess like mail in them or whatever. So you're probably thinking it's like a DP related question or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like you would say, hmm, this sounds like it has like a dynamic nature to it. So I'm guessing dynamic programming. We are optimizing. So you start talking about like when we're trying to think about optimizations, typically I would always approach it with like backtracking as the brute force approach. But I probably want to go a little bit deeper. How can we make this more efficient? But I would probably talk more about the backtracking approach. And at the very end, I would say, you know what? I think we can do better. Can we add some type of caching layer component to it upon the backtracking solution to, I guess, I really guarantee those optimal gains or whatever. I would just be talking like that, really stretching like my knowledge, hitting all the keywords, backtracking, dynamic programming, things
Efficiency.
like that. Yeah, but the thing is, like, if you mention backtracking, they're gonna ask you to implement it sometimes,
Mm. Okay.
right? And so you kind of have to like that's the point. Like if you're at a point, you've seen a lot of backtracking problems, you can do them. And dynamic programming in most interview senses are not bottom up. So you just add a cache layer component. So you don't have to change your backtracking approach. You just add a cache. If like most interviews, they do top down.
Yeah.
Um, so if you're at that point where then you don't need to like get information from the interviewer that quick. I think that if you're stuck, the most predictable delta you can get between like you doing like bad versus you doing okay is just flexing your knowledge.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha.
And but if you're at a point where you've definitely written all the code and it's like, oh, like it's it works for some cases and it's just like a tiny little edge case, then you're at that point, they already know that you know it. And so it might be the thing, oh, you need to add a +1. But you're
Mm.
clearly bugging tricks like your print statements and all that type of stuff. So like the expected way to like us maximize that delta if you really don't know it is to just flex your knowledge at that point.
Hmm.
It's like there's every other way you'll probably figure out how to do it if you actually know how to do it. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah, that's really helpful. Really, really, really insightful stuff there of just like how to improve your chances, even if you don't know shit.
yeah.
Yeah. And then now I also want to ask about the system design component. Like what is the system design, I guess, portion of the NVIDIA recruiting process, and how do you like prepare for these types of questions, if there were any?
Yeah, so the system design process, it was like the thing about system design, I kind of think about it where like you're um designing like multi-service or like multi-component um like multi-component systems that exist that will like operate on on-prem or like some type of cloud. So like I guess like the most rudimentary like or the most basic definition of like a system design is like a CRUD app. And then there's like, like Twitch or like Amazon or whatever. Is like I guess like, something like or design is like a stock exchange, right? So this one focused on Kubernetes. And so, like, real briefly, Kubernetes is just a service that allows you to like collect telemetry and auto scale containers. And containers are just like units of, they're just like small units and where like you can run your code and on a standardized like OS, et cetera, things like it just standardizes it. So it makes it a lot easier for people to use together. And so Kubernetes manages those containers, right? And essentially my interviews were about like in terms of like the system designing aspect, it was about Kubernetes. And so Kubernetes isn't inherently like there isn't like a complicated like algorithm or whatever. It's more of very specific scenarios was the question that they asked me. Like it's not super specific, but like if something happens, how would you go about fixing it? And they would be like, okay, that sounds good. Yeah, that's probably what I would do. If they're talking about like their experiences and they're just saying like if you like are like adjacent to it enough. And then from there, like they will like progress you past like, to the next interview or to another question per se. So like an example is if you haven't had a lot of Kubernetes knowledge, like what I did, this was before I even knew I got the interview. I would like read a lot of like this subreddit called Experienced Devs, and
Mm.
they talk a lot about like very ad hoc situations that they've been in. And it's very interesting to hear those kind of stories because I didn't at first understand them technically. And to some of them, I don't as well. But to just do research on it and to test it out and play with it yourself, or just even like converse with ChatGPT and just verify like, would my approach work or not? Also like getting over that hump and like posting on Reddit, asking questions, and those like, I guess like those high traffic like subreddits that like are dense, are small enough, but like high traffic enough is also a really good way to like verify your skill set. This is something you should be like as a long-term thing. This is something you should be having a habit of doing. But the Kubernetes subreddit was also really good for finding situations and just trying to understand the situations because like it's a tool that allows you to like have so many different configurations, which means that you can have very unique, very like specific problems that people have not even encountered before, yet they're going to offer their input to try and like help you, and like honestly just like understand those scenario based and like developing a strong opinion of how you'd approach something is the best way I would say to prepare for an NVIDIA interview. Even there were some like there was another guy I know he got NVIDIA and he interned there and he got the full time and his interview was just like Linux based questions, like Linux scenario based questions. This first
Wow.
interview was just like basic, like what is the bin do, user, blah blah blah, OS related questions, like very basic level. The next interview was like walk me through a problem that you've dealt with, like working on like the OS. And that's how they gauge if you really know what you're talking about. So it's simple to explain and very difficult to like actually get to. But if you just use it and you have a general like interest with it, that will actually do all the work for you, in a sense. But even me, I had like one summer with Kubernetes. And then from there, I just like passively consumed content. And then I was able to like casually answer questions. I didn't do I did like zero prep for the I actually did like only prep I did was LeetCode. I didn't do any other prep besides that for NVIDIA. But yeah, a system design question NVIDIA might ask, it's all very specific on like what team you want to join. And like I said, it was just scenario-based questions about Kubernetes. Like how have I used it before? And they asked me questions about like, could you have done it this way at MongoDB? But and then you would have to like think about it because I didn't really know what they were talking about until we actually like got deep in the conversation. I was actually able to show that I I knew what I was talking about. Like they asked about Helm and like what a Helm file was. And I basically just like talk about like allows you to configure Kubernetes files like in the YAML files, allows you to have like high configurations of those kind of YAML files. So you'd have like one variable in a Helm file that could be applied to like all these different Kubernetes files. Like it's a different like package and stuff. So it's like how you've used it is that's like the best advice I could give. So if you use a particular technology really well, like Java, Spring Boot, Linux, blah blah blah, just I said blah 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 blah, but if you just use all those things, like look at those jobs. If you're good enough, put them on your resume, and you have a higher probability of getting those interviews.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Probability. It's not like a guarantee, it's like a higher probability. But yeah.
Gotcha.
And you're just structured. So here's what I'll say. If they give you a system design question, be like very opinionated. Like opinionated. Yeah, be very opinionated because if they see that you are very opinionated about something, it gives the confidence that, okay, this guy kind of knows what he's talking about. Because they might say, could you have done it this way? But instead of saying, no, you're wrong, be like, I do like that, but the thing that I'm worried about is if we do it this way, we might incur like extra costs or like an example being like I had a conversation with like some guy like at a startup and he had like a lot of high traffic coming to like his REST API. And he was like the thing was like he had to allocate like when you he like basically he got the request and he basically like allocated like like a struct or or a class or whatever to populate those fields so he can use them elsewhere like in his functions. So like user dot like name user dot blah. When you allocate memory like that in a high traffic like within like a high traffic service, it takes time to allocate. You're also using a lot of memory if you have a lot of concurrent usage and you put a lot of strain on like the GC as well. So the garbage collector. So I was like saying how I would go about it. I would create like a resource pool. And what a resource pool does, it has access to all these pre-made objects. And you borrow from that pool and you just overwrite its fields because you don't waste any time
Mm.
allocating memory. So you're just overwriting those fields. And then when you're done with it, instead of the GC handling it, you just return it back to the pool. Right. So you never trust the data you get coming from the pool, but you don't have to like allocate memory for it. And it was a resource pool. You could just, if you don't have it in your language, you could probably build it, find an existing package, or the STD, standard library might already have one. And so like being really painted about that really drove the idea to him. But if I was like, oh, I mean, maybe we could have done it your way and see how it figure we can see how it plays out, like that doesn't really drive change. It doesn't communicate like almost said strength, but that's crazy. It doesn't convey like, I guess like your ability to drive something like end to end. And like towards like my other like my Bloomberg one as well, like I was being very opinionated for like different services, different design implementations, but I also welcome feedback, but I also like ask questions when I didn't fully trust it. So yeah, being very opinionated like definitely like helped for sure and like doing well or better in those interviews.
Gotcha. Gotcha. That's really, really helpful right there. Yeah. Yeah. Really helpful stuff. Um, and then I guess just like finally, what are some tips and resources that you recommend? Is there like any specific book or specific online PDF for NVIDIA or a company of
Nah,
that
nah,
caliber?
it's like it's an empire. Like they have so many different services. It's not just like GPUs. It's like services built on top of their GPU. So like you kind of have to really find what you're kind of interested in and just find what you're interested in and like let interest drive you.
Hmm.
Because they're not going to give you like they're going to give you basic questions for like the first interview. But that stuff you could like probably grind in like an hour or two and then a day or two. But then they're going to give you scenario based. And those scenario based ones, if you don't know it, they can like either move on and be totally chill and you could just they could just ask you scenario based off of your own experiences with it as well. But if you're not that interested in it and you just go as like making a simple CRUD app and you're not incurring any problems or challenges along the way, you have nothing to talk about. You're basically cooked. So like you kind of have to find like the trigger of like of interest and then just like stretch it and abuse it as much as possible in like whatever you want to study. And if I knew that NVIDIA was going to like ask me specific based questions, I would honestly how I prep, I'll just go on Reddit, like read all those experiences, talk to ChatGPT with it, understand them, and now I have like a bunch of things to talk about, like in an interview, like really play with it and really make that experience my own experience. Is like probably the best way to like kind of crush those interviews if you get them. A referral, man, I don't know, man. A referral, if you like, I mean, I can't like refer you if I don't know you, you know what I'm saying? So like, if I know you, you're a viewer and I know you, then if you're capable, I'll refer you. But like, Kai keeps hitting me up and he's like, really grinding LeetCode and Kubernetes and stuff. And we keep, talking about code or whatever. I'm like, Kai, I'm gonna refer you like right away. Like, come work with me right now. But I guess like I didn't get a referral to NVIDIA. So fun fact, like every company I kind of applied to that wasn't a referral or like a QR code from an event or career fair or a lobby day, the only one that I applied to cold was NVIDIA. Like, yeah, it was
Wow.
no one I applied to cold. And I knew it was cold because because I didn't remember I applied to it. Like
Hmm.
when I got those like back-to-back emails. Like I didn't know at all. So it was kind of crazy. Like the most crack company I got, they hit me up cold. I applied cold to.
Hmm.
Like definitely that even like speaks to more volumes where it's like apply, but also make sure your resume configures those like you're applying to jobs that actually at NVIDIA that actually speak to those skill sets. Because if you just like build a simple CRUD app and you have like delivered X value, cross-functional, blah blah on your like resume, like you're not gonna go very far. You're not gonna go very far at all. Like it's like my resume was like like one part was like very specific to Go and like Kubernetes, and I talked in very specific detail on how I've used it, which I feel like did well in the resume passing. And common mistakes. Yeah, so like I made a lot of common mistakes. I did all like NVIDIA LeetCode questions. That was like a really big mistake, because I didn't get a single tag LeetCode question. Like it was like if you want to talk about like the biggest waste of time, it was actually like genuinely a very big waste of time because at a point I was able to crush all 139 within like 2 days. And that was just me being like really kind of casual with it, like maybe like 6, 7 hours a day, honestly, of just like LeetCode. It was like nothing compared to like, what I was doing before. And I was as a result, like I just was kind of going about it very like wishy-washy throughout the day, like 2 hours there, 4 hours there, and then 30 minutes or so, like in some blocks. Wasted the whole day, didn't really do schoolwork, only for it to, and I already got a lot of value from like grinding LeetCode previously. And what I was getting was like I was pushing like some type of like asymptote, like I wasn't getting much value out of it.
Mm.
And then I ultimately just like got the interview. It was a nice conversation. It didn't even feel like an interview. Then the LeetCode was like instantly coded it. It was very simple. And the Donna's one was not so simple, but it was simple. The other one was simple in the sense that I've done a lot of problems like that. And it was just like, okay, genuinely like waste of time. But yeah. But yeah, and then honestly, like I want to say maybe I should have gone on like Reddit right before and like started grinding like those particular situations. But I think like if it's very genuine, it does a lot for you in an interview. And I'm not saying like not to do whatever you have to do to like optimize for whatever you need, but I do think that that genuineness was something that really showed that I was capable. And it was very easy to just like talk. Like when you start like adding extra overhead and context switching between like, is this mine or that's like it gets you're not as like efficient and your confidence doesn't go up as high. I'm
Hmm.
trying to like really talk about it from like a unselfish like logical reasoning, just so I can like not give off the vibe that like don't cheat, guys, don't do like I don't want to give off that vibe, but I just want to say being genuine simplifies and optimizes like the entire interview process. Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And I think that's the end of NVIDIA.